Are you ready for this, my friend?
I am.
Welcome to Matt and Mike's Matinee. Today we're talking about the Phoenician scheme.
Mm-hmm.
I am so sorry that our set is not, perfectly aligned and everything is absolutely opposite and attracted to each other. But, we can't all be like Wes Anderson.
No, unfortunately. The king of symmetry. The king of boxes.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Every single shot of this movie is a Wes Anderson creation where you could almost take a picture and it would be perfect for hanging up on the wall.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, it's because Wes Anderson takes so much time in crafting every bit of his movies. He's obsessed with the sets, the clothing, the colors, the animation. He has a hand in all of it. He is so particular that the actors and all the people involved have no choice but to end up producing the movie that he wants produced by the end of it, which is why I think so many people like working for him, because they know exactly. Well, I think so. Okay. Well, because he knows how to direct them. He knows he knows exactly what kind of characters they want him to play. He has every single line of dialogue probably already crafted, and they come in and they just get to exist inside of his world for a little bit.
Would some people call that micromanaging, though?
Yeah, I think he absolutely is a micromanaging director, and I think that in talking about his stop motion animated films, where he has even more control over it than anything. He's
true.
He
just busts in and just actually bends the character's arm
exactly
instead.
So instead of his actors.
Yeah.
But
let me bend your arm, Del Toro.
Yeah, just metaphorically bending their arms to do what he wants them to do instead of literally.
Scarlett Johansson, I know you're here, but still.
Yeah. So, so this is the Phoenician Scheme is his latest film, and it's a very interesting movie. It kind of is a part of this kind of much more dry run of movies of his, in my opinion. Not necessarily a bad thing.
No, absolutely
not.
But
his movies, and as they become more and more controlled, they also feel more slick, more just calculated, more honed in.
Yeah.
And it creates this kind of feeling where it feels everything feels so on edge. And not necessarily, in not in a bad way.
Not because of the actual story, but more because, those two lights opposite side of the train just look way too symmetric to be real.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think that's kind of a part of the reason why I ended up liking this movie quite a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's my favorite. I kind of put it in the middle for me because Wes Anderson always has control over Wes Anderson's films.
Yes.
Right, yes, correct. But I do like that his a little bit more emotive storytelling in some of his other films. And the reason being is, and I'm going to get into all the reasons why this movie is great here in just a minute, but just on this point, the moments where the characters kind of transform. So this movie is about another troubled character who, over the course of the movie, ends up having a kind of a change of heart, or kind of comes to an understanding about his situation, his relationships in his life, and that sort of thing. And I think that a lot of West's movies cover that sort of theme, but I think those transition scenes are they're usually they swing a little bit bigger in the emotive kind of area. I think they land a lot harder for me. Where this one is he has a change of heart, but it's really quick, and it's right on to the next scene.
Was it quick for you? Was his change of heart quick for you?
I think the moment that he had the change of heart he's just
yeah, but
I need to. Build up. It's not poorly done. It's just it's only comparison. It just
comparison. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
He had to die a whole bunch.
Yeah, to get there, a lot of confrontations with God before he was able to come to that. But I'll pass to you really quick. So this is, how many Wes Anderson movies have you seen?
I've only seen one Wes Anderson movie.
Which one was it?
The one with the hotel.
A Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah, Grand Budapest. And
So-
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me
I
too.
had a great time with
I really
it.
like that movie. How does the movie stand up to that?
I do think it's a little bit more entertaining to me. I think that this one's more entertaining.
Oh,
than
interesting,
Grand
yeah.
Budapest. Just because there's a couple things in Grand Budapest that didn't really land well.
For you?
For me. I
Yeah.
can't remember a little bit specifics right now, but it didn't really stick with me like the Phoenician scheme did.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the Grand Budapest is kind of a lot more grand in many ways,
Yeah.
I do feel like the underlying grandness of the Phoenician scheme, like you are following this really wealthy character, but the wealth is in the background. Whereas, you kind of see things crumbling in the Phoenician scheme as things are going, as the story progresses. You get little bits and pieces that, his kingdom isn't as sturdy as everybody else perceives it to be. There's like a ladder in his main room, you know what I mean? And there's like all these little small details in the background of where he's at, of things that are his, that kind of symbolizes his world crumbling type of thing.
Right.
So
And so all those thematic elements just kind of came together in a way that was more fulfilling
exactly
comparatively. Yeah, because I think that's probably fair, because I think Grand Budapest its world is probably not as meticulously crafted, because I think Grand Budapest was more interested in just being like a really entertaining and fun and funny movie, which I think it succeeds really super, super well at. But
absolutely.
I do think that this world is even more nuanced and detailed.
Yeah.
So, and if you're kind of someone who enjoys that kind of
Yeah,
stuff,
you
kind of pay attention to
Yeah.
those kind of things, I can see why it would be, you would like it more.
There's a lot.
The Grand Budapest Hotel, I think I like a little bit more than this movie.
I can see that.
But I do have a real soft spot for Ralph Fiennes' character in that movie, the main concierge.
Yeah.
He's such a great character. But that doesn't mean that the characters in this movie aren't good. In fact, the main character who we're talking about, which is Anatoly Korda, is great. Benicio del Toro did a great job, but I mean, really, Mia Freepleton playing Sister Liesel was really good too. Very great. She has a tough job because she's the kind of the straight man in some kind of ways, like reacting to like the absurdity. But but she's also really quirky and interesting too, and she becomes like her.
She very much becomes corrupt as the movie
goes on. Exactly, and I like that element of her.
She wants to be a nun, and then you're like, how is she gonna fit in with Anatoly's character?
Yeah,
they're definitely dichotomy.
Well, they butt heads
there
right
at the
there.
very
Yeah,
beginning. And but her like straight face throughout the whole thing, like she is the epitome of how you would say somebody is. I can't think of the word right now. The person who is dressed all in black usually, and gothic. Yeah, she's very much like the gothic kind of person.
Yeah,
but portrayed differently. She's like the Christian and like always wearing white.
She's Christian alternative.
No emotions.
Christian goth.
Yeah, she has no emotions, and she plays the part perfectly,
really well. Yeah,
especially as things go on.
Yeah,
and specifically, and I'm just gonna throw out a spoiler when Bjorn falls into or changes. When he changes into his other self.
Yeah, and Bjorn's played by really well by Michael Cera, who does a great job. Really great job. But yeah, like whenever Michael Cera does the switch, and he kind of is like without getting into extreme spoilers, but he's kind of like has like two very different performances of the same character, and when he switches from one mode into the second mode, it's pretty wild, and her reaction to it is really
her reaction
really good.
to it
really
is
funny.
like, this is where you see her start growing, her start to fall more into her family lineage, but it's portrayed through all emotion and situations, which is really commendable because you don't get someone looking straight at sister and being like, wow, you're a bad person now. It's
Right.
like all of a sudden she's drinking shots and beer, and you're just like, and everybody else is like,
and the movie's not like doesn't really bother getting too like caught up in
no,
in that, which is refreshing.
absolutely,
It's just like it's just like these characters like just be
yeah,
themselves and
just because
exist in this weird cool setting and world, you know.
yeah, and every single character is different by the end of the
Mhm.
movie.
Yeah,
They all have a very clear arc and change
yeah.
from the beginning to the end that it was a really fun ride to go along with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think it was quite a ride. I think the whole just the setup to the execution is very well done. I think I think I will say that this might be Wes's best movie from just a cinematography perspective. Like there are so many gorgeous
Absolutely.
shots in
Every
this movie.
single shot.
It's so good. So I have to give big props to this movie for that. It's a so it doesn't hurt it that the rest of the film is really good. There's no part of this movie that's like poorly done, really.
No.
So with that being said, we go into the spoilers. We kind of talk about like favorite scenes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But so where are you at as far as like a rating, and what are your like some overall thoughts, and how does it compare to the other movies you've seen this year?
So I'm throwing Phoenician Scheme at an 8. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I had a really good time watching it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like brain scratches that happen in it.
Yeah.
Where you look at just this scene where just a character standing there and then everything behind him is perfectly aligned and perfectly straight and perfectly symmetrical, and it's just like, this feels really good to watch. And then to see Michael Cera, his character, bring such a comedic pool to it, but in a way that's not like in your face clown like. It's more of a, man, this is who I really am, but really I'm not.
You're right. It would have been really easy for that character to fall into like the Talladega Nights goofy kind of goofiness.
It felt like it was going to.
Yeah,
at the very beginning when we first started talking.
Yeah, I know. Where you're like, ooh.
That
I don't know if this is, and I trusted Wes Anderson's like judgment with the character and the direction, so I knew it wouldn't go over the top. But like, you're just so used to seeing like a lot of movies where a character comes in with a weird goofy accent like that, and it just gets bad. It goes in a direction that just becomes grating. The characterization just doesn't work. But but that doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
He always like
No.
it's always fun,
Yeah.
whatever he is on screen. So
that contrasted with Sister Liesl's character and the absolute deadpan, contrasted with Antole's kind of like almost Tony Stark-esque, overblown kind of like, this is how it's gonna be.
Right, his scheming, his like faux cocky assuredness of himself, you know. And
but he plays that also in a comedic way.
Yeah,
really drove home for me this movie. The Phoenician Scheme will be put at an 8.
Yeah,
because of the dynamics, the growing arc, and this weird setting that all Wes Anderson movies have. Also, something else I need to mention, it feels a lot like a classic Western, where you have a lot of slow, kind of dry moments, but they really push the feeling and the story and the plot by not saying or doing much, just showing a lot. I love that stuff. I love Westerns that make you feel like the world's big, and there's a lot going on, but not showing you everything because you just feel it.
Right. Yeah.
What about you, my friend?
That's really good. I'm really glad that you got that from it. I've been kind of grappling with this one a little bit. I think I'm going to come in at a 7 for me because I like.
Wow.
I think the movie is a good movie. I really like it. I think it's only if this was one of the only Wes Anderson movies I've ever seen, or if this is the first one I watched. It might have been an 8, but I think that just for me, I still like the movie. I would be happy to watch this at any point in time. Show this to people. But it's just like, once again, there's just something about it at the end of the day that doesn't quite land 100% for me. Like, I enjoy it. I don't think anything is poor. I think it's just that connection. I didn't care for any of the characters as much as I did Bill Murray's character in The Life Aquatic, or Gene Hackman's character in The Royal Tenenbaums, or these characters have like so much like emotional depth to them that it's just like in comparison, these characters I don't think were meant to be as emotionally relatable. I think
no, they weren't
by
They're
design,
very much
and so
an epiphany of their kind of character, and emotion, and drive.
Yeah. So but I still, and that's really it.
Epitome.
So I would just say, like, when I think about like when it is at an 8, is like Sinners for me, where I was like, I think this is it's like really lands 100% for me, and for this one, it's just like, this one's cool. This was a cool movie, great shots, great music, really cool scenes and sequences, and but like when it all kind of comes together at the end, it just doesn't stick in my mind as much. I don't kind of like kind of sit on it and think about it as much as I did like Moonrise Kingdom and movies like that when I watch it. And it's really only in comparison. I just think that it's also because I've seen like almost every single one of Wes's movies. I've missed the last 2. So I've just seen a lot of his work, and I think it's also just because like I kind of know what to expect, and I've seen 8 or 9 of these movies, and so I already kind of, and so kind of comparing them, I think it's just going to happen naturally. It just like sometimes like Pink Floyd's really a great band, and but sometimes you're just going to gravitate a little bit more strongly to the first like 4 or 5 you listen to versus the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th one,
because that's what impacted you the most.
Right.
It's your comparison of that.
Yeah, exactly.
That drives you for what you like and what's interesting.
Yeah. But once again, don't let that 7 deter you from going to watch this. Go see it in theaters. It's really worth it, especially on the big screen, because once again, it's just like it's
also really interesting that the main theaters around here aren't carrying it.
It's a shame. They're making a mistake.
They're making a big mistake, but I also think that it's great for small theaters to really gain more attraction.
So give it to the small theaters. Let them get the money for it.
Exactly.
It makes sense.
Much rather them have it than the big theaters in a lot of ways. So.
Yeah, I agree. So I guess on that note, we'll get to the spoilers, but I'll kind of talk about the reason why. Well, I could do this one thing. Okay. The reason why this movie should be in the big screen is because of scenes like when Tom Hanks and Bryan Cranston show up.
Yes,
to see them play basketball, like that whole scene is so funny and so cool. This movie is
very surprising because I did not expect them.
I mean, while this movie is a little artsy, there's it's not so artsy that it loses its charm or it being funny.
Oh, absolutely not.
I mean,
no.
I think that normal, casual moviegoers could absolutely get something out of this. I mean, it would be a little bit
introduction to artsy.
Right, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a little bit more challenging than like a Marvel film. It's a little bit more challenging than Thunderbolts. But I mean, it's not it's not over the hill or anything. I think they're making a mistake. So
but to the absolute gain of small town theaters.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that note, we'll now move to the spoiler section.
Are you ready for the spoilers?
I am.
So
click out of it now if you don't want to be spoiled. You've been warned. So
you have been warned.
Yeah.
So let's roll into it.
Spoilers. So, what is your favorite scene in the movie?
My favorite scene was the whole crash sequence. Right.
Mm-hmm.
After they crashed the plane for the second time. For Antole, right?
Yes. Oh, it's the second one where
where they're in the jungle, right? And all 3 of them. It's kind of like the climax. It's where you start seeing the world building and the setting layout and everything kind of turn. It's like, okay, we've told you everything that you need to know. We're about to flip it on its head, right? It's when Bjorn turns into Bjorn.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
And it's when you start
where he's
seeing-
pretty much the same person. I'm pretty much the same.
I didn't really
Yeah.
lie to you. I'm trying to drive my, benefit and stuff like that for my book and things. I was going to
Yeah.
mention it to,
Yeah.
fantastic scene, fantastic play of, giving the audience what they need to really push things forward without throwing it right in their face.
Yeah.
I think it's also the time when Sister starts to turn. You can see her start to falter. It's also when and Tole is like really therapizing and being introspective about his past to see who he is and why he is right now.
Yeah.
So
And he starts to realize that like all of this empire, all this money, and all the stuff he's chasing is like not as important to him as he thinks it is. He's like misplacing his value in life, a little bit.
His multiple runs with dying kind of woke him up into this point where he's like, this isn't gonna be happening all the time. There's one time when one of these assassins are gonna absolutely land their mark, and I'm not gonna wake up from it.
Yeah.
What actually matters?
Yeah.
His daughter.
Right.
His family and cooking, which was a very subtle drop throughout the whole movie.
Yeah. And it's very fitting that he ends up being a chef in the end,
and
like once,
dishwasher.
in the dishwasher, when he's at the end there.
Yeah.
Which I really like. Yeah. So
your favorite scene, Mike?
I think that whole bit is really good. I really do like. It's a really subtle scene, but I will say that this movie might have one of the better expository scenes I've seen. A lot of times when the movie slows down and just starts like just info dumping a bunch of stuff to you, it's like kind of annoying. We kind of talked about that in the Minecraft film, but this movie does it, and I didn't really mind in the shoebox scene when he. When he meets up with this daughter at the beginning of the movie, and they have all the shoeboxes and the arrows are being shot by his kids from the balcony. Yeah, that whole sequence is kind of interestingly done because it is just straight up telling you
this is what's going to happen throughout the whole
what's
movie.
been happening, what's going on, the fact that he's like kind of like
the whole plot.
Yeah, he's like getting all these investors to come and combine like all of these different enterprises, like the shipping and train transportation and all this stuff to to unite this them all together to kind of
make the Phoenician scheme
successful. And he just lays it all out and he says, "Oh, we're gonna go here, we're gonna go here, we're gonna go here."
Yeah.
And the movie is just like it's just like every single section is just what was described without any alteration.
Yeah.
It's just without any falter. But it works. I don't know.
I think it's because Wes puts it so early in the movie that you're still trying to immerse in it.
Yeah, and I think it's because so much of his character still comes through in that. You're
Absolutely.
still figuring him and his daughter out at that point in time. So you're still in every single exchange you're learning tiny bits about both of them too.
You're
and I
right.
think that's probably why it works.
But if you think about it, it also distracts from telling and info dumping by having the arrows fall, by having him leave the room for a second to go take care of his kids, and by having that interaction with Sister and Bjorn at the very beginning, to kind of be like, wow, I'm not being info dumped. I'm actually in the story.
Right. So I think that's a really cool scene. It's not necessarily my favorite, but it's one of the more interesting ones because, like I said, it succeeded on something a lot of movies don't. So I kind of think that's cool. But I mean, I'd be lying if I was if the basketball train scene wasn't my favorite.
Yes,
I really do love that whole sequence. It's so funny.
It was jarring, but in a good way. As soon as you saw Bryan Cranston and Tom Hanks on the screen, we were like, what are we watching?
Yeah, but I like how cocky and how how much trash talking they were doing. It's really funny just seeing them in that mode, like sing these,
yeah,
but
these powerhouses right now.
Yeah,
in
and then
cinema.
but then you also see like it doesn't stop doing like the character world building either. Like with them, like every single snarky comment they make is still adding a lot to the plot. You know, the sister Liesel and Bjorn are in the cart drinking, and she's
You're
you
right.
know, and then
Yeah.
you know their relationship is unfolding, and that's the very first time that like he starts to get her to try beer, you know, and then
Well,
there's
but-
like the running joke where it's like I never drank hard liquor in my life except for the ceremonial wine, and then he's like, oh, it's just beer, just barely anything, and she keeps adding to the list, you know, as
Yeah.
the movie goes on. Like I've only tried ceremonial wine and beer, never nothing else. But no, there's a lot of stuff that's established in that sequence, and I think it's just edited and shot really great. So I think that's mine. But I honestly think that the one you're talking about, that whole scene in the jungle is
Very
just
much was
is
the turning
fantastic
point of
too.
the movie, too.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad that we're kind of on the same
Yeah.
boat there. Are you gonna go watch more of Wes's stuff after this?
I mean, absolutely. It's not that I have been avoiding Wes's stuff.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
more of I just haven't had the chance really to fall into him.
Yeah.
It's never come across my plate. Now
Right.
that I've seen this movie, I'm definitely interested in most of them.
Yeah. We gotta jump in on those.
Not the stop
I'm gonna
action one.
I'm gonna get you on those. Don't worry. You're gonna watch all of them. We'll do a tier ranking, even if they're the bottom. You have to watch them.
We've got to
So,
watch them. I will watch them.
But yeah, definitely got to come bring over some of my favorites and kind of get some of your opinions on those. It'll be fun. But yeah, I think that does it. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about specifically with the film? Any particular performances or any parts that you thought were interesting?
I do have a big question. though.
Yeah.
What message did you get from this movie?
Message.
Was there a
Like-
message or?
Yeah. Well, I mean, outside of just like the obvious message, like this story of a man who tries not to it is about like a rich person with a lot of money, a lot of affluence in the world, who's using that money and power for ill, for for
That's how he
like
made
for
his money too.
right, for
Yeah.
making his money through like these really negative means, and it's kind of saying that like even someone in his position can still change. You can still like find some value in the world that isn't just
money.
and
Or
like
getting over on somebody.
So but I don't think that the movie is like while you can read that into it, I think that it's like a story that has that element in it, but I don't think that the movie is like a really direct, huge like hammer driving a point in. Like the whole movie is in service of a very specific, direct point, in my opinion. It more like it makes points along the way.
A lot of little points, and then
Yeah, because like when you
Right.
think about like Fern Gully, did you ever see the animated movie Fern Gully back in
long
the day?
time ago,
You know,
yeah.
like that's just like deforestation,
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Which
Humans bad.
right? Humans bad. Like it's so obvious. Like it's like everything is like trying to drive this one point in, and I
Yeah.
don't know. What about you? I mean, do you agree, disagree, or do you feel like this was making a point that you kind of pulled from?
there
it?
was absolutely a point, the main arcing point following Antole's character, where it's like even though you are bad, you can change and be good, right? How Antole gets there is kind of a little suspicious because he fails a lot
Yeah.
before he realizes he's given a lot of leeway to get there. Not everybody gets that.
Right.
But then you also have to think about Liesel's character and Bjorn, right? So they have a minor arc within this whole story that's different from a lot of other like meanings and messages you get, because very much Sister goes from straight edge to drinking whiskey by the end of and playing cards by the end of the movie, right? What is that trying to say?
But also is still religious. It's like the movie doesn't say like, oh, you're a hypocrite or anything for it.
No, but
it's more real. It's just being real about like it's just the nature of people. It doesn't mean that she's like no longer capable of trying to do the right thing or even applying what she's learned because of her religious beliefs in a positive way just because she's taken on these elements, in her life. Like, so it's interesting. It's a very interesting depiction of
religion,
a member of religion,
and extreme religion, because even the Pope was bought off at the end of the movie.
It's true, yeah.
And I feel like she kind of realized that kind of stuff, and then realized who she actually was. She was trying to take her religion and make it her whole personality, because she wasn't comfortable with who she was because of where she came from.
Right. Yeah. And she didn't want to accept that part of herself.
Exactly.
Because once again, like, the people that were her upbringing, or like were her family, were involved in like killing her mother in just like a phallic measuring contest.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
That's the whole, and then just end up with the death of her mom because of it. And then, so it makes sense
that she would try to do the exact extreme opposite. But then you also have to look at Bjorn, right? So he went to the extreme opposite because he was trying to drive his goal, right? And so what he did to do that is he covered up and was trying to be a completely different person. But then towards the end of the movie, right, he's like, yeah, I'm the nerdy bug guy, and I don't need these guys to help drive my goals and aspirations. You know what? We're just going to go ahead and go do it ourselves. You know what? You're pretty too, sister. Yeah. It's like, let me be who I want to be. Maybe that, to me, was the overarching message, was be the person that you're comfortable being. Don't let the outside world develop or change or push you to be something you're not comfortable being. Antole was a fantastic chef and a fantastic dishwasher.
Yeah.
It was stated right at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And what did he end up being?
Yeah.
A fantastic chef and a fantastic dishwasher.
And he just seems happier for it by the end of the movie.
Happier.
Yeah. So
and
it's an interesting thing. Just, don't let your family history or lineage or just like force you down paths you don't want to go down. Yeah.
And then, sister became more confident with just what she enjoys. And because the church very much was pushing her away from all that. And then, Bjorn actually followed his dream to get his book out there in the world and become that kind of person. Be able to study more of his stuff that he wants. So it's underlying underneath of that, hey, I'm a big guy, I turn good story.
Yeah, right.
Which is
it's cool.
The layers are very nice.
Yeah, it is.
So that's my last thing. What do you got, buddy?
I don't know if I have anything else. I think that like we've really nailed like what this movie does without having to like a recap. We've nailed like why it's worth watching, what it does well, and what it's kind of doing thematically. I think that's a good ending to this, actually. So
it was short and sweet.
Our shortest video yet. Well, we'll look. It'll be like actually like 25 minutes. Just
very
watch.
Symmetrical.
Yeah, just watch. It'll be totally boned. But
cool.
So I guess all that's left is to close this out.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And if you all have seen this movie, what'd you think about it? And if you haven't seen it, please go see it. We will catch you on the next episode.
And as always, see you on the clip side.
Bye, guys.